Our session just before tea is Cracking the Code, Challenges and Opportunities for MNCs in India. I invite the panelists to take their seats on stage. Mr. Krish Iyer, CEO, Walmart India. Mr. Peter Betzel, CEO, IKEA India. Mr. Erich Nesselhauf, Managing Director, Daimler India Commercial Vehicles. I also invite Ms. Vinita Bali, former Managing Director of Britannia Industries Limited, to moderate this session. Ladies and gentlemen, Cracking the Code, Challenges and Opportunities for MNCs in India.
So good afternoon. This session is not just after lunch, but just before the tea break as well. I'm told we have about an hour. This is really going to be a conversation. I'm going to kick off the conversation, and we've got three excellent panelists. I'm not going to take time reading their CVs. You all have their biographical information in the program that has been shared with you. But really suffice to say, Peter, on my right, is the newest to India, has been here for about 3 months. He's going to bring us wonderful IKEA furniture. Even though IKEA as a company has been in India for over 30 years doing the back-end supply chain, Peter is here to make sure that the front end is very well taken care of with the first store coming up in Hyderabad. Seated next to Peter is Krish Iyer, who's the CEO of Walmart. Krish has had experience in India, 8 years, then 8 years outside of India working for another large retailer called Watson, and then back in India as CEO of Walmart. Chris is also credited with changing basically the business model of Walmart, and we'd like to explore that with you a little bit, Chris. And right at the other end is Erich. Erich comes from Daimler-Benz, and as we were talking earlier, I don't know how many of you know this, but I was quite astounded when Erich shared with me that Daimler-Benz makes in India and exports to 40 countries around the world. So, that's really quite significant. I can see some very surprised faces in the audience. So this session is really about, the challenges and opportunities for MNCs operating in India. We're not going to spend too much time looking at numbers. What I'd like to do is go beneath the numbers, go under the numbers, and really see what are the experiences on the ground as far as each of these industries is concerned. These are all very important industries for India. But those of us who like numbers, just to really say that, FDI is something that happened in the initial stages when Dr. Manmohan Singh was actually the finance minister. And I was looking at some numbers. In 2000, FDI in India was about $4 billion. In 7 years after that, in 2007, it increased sixfold to about $22 billion. We're now talking about FDI inflows into India, order of magnitude about $60 billion. On the one hand, when you look at it in the context of, 4 in 2007 to about 60 billion right now, it seems like a very sharp, and it is a sharp increase. On the other hand, when you look at the same number and put it in the context of what does it really mean for India, a country where you can take any product market segment, and the conclusion is that every product market segment is actually underserved. Whether you're talking about the per capita consumption of biscuits, which I should know a little bit about, or soft drinks, or cars, or organized retail. The point I'm making is 60 billion from where we were is a big number. But for a country like ours, with aspirations and ambitions to be a global, to be a global ranker, 60 billion may actually be quite insufficient, both when you look at it from the point of view of domestic consumption, as well as the opportunity India has to do what Daimler-Benz is doing in some ways, which is make in India and export to markets around the world. So this session will really explore what makes the numbers what they are, and what are some of the challenges each of these players has faced. So Peter, I'm looking at you because you're the newest, so you have all the answers. As they say, if you want to find out about your country, ask the tourist. You've been here 3 months. And, IKEA has been thinking about coming to India for a very long time. I think your colleague in the front end of the business came to India about 5 years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about what has been happening in 5 years? And, what has taken us so long for the first store in Hyderabad to actually come up? So what have been some of the positives? What are some of the things you wish were different? So that we get an understanding of what happens beneath the surface.
Yeah, my name is Peter. Thank you for the invitation. I'm quite excited because I'm now just 3 months in India, and I must say from the first time I already fell in love with India because it's so rich in diversity, in culture and everything. So this is great to live here also. And I think then being in IKEA for 25 years, I have been in IKEA Germany, which has been the biggest IKEA, still the biggest IKEA country in the IKEA world. And then moving to India, this is also, very close to the vision when we say we would like to create a better everyday life for the many people. And from that perspective, if you look from the many people and you feel the energy and the diversity what we have in the country, and also the growth and the positivism in India, I felt it was already time now to also be in India, not only for supply. We're having supply in India since 30 years, but now to open up also the retail, to coming closer to the vision and offering something, a better everyday life for the many people. My perspective and also the IKEA perspective is I think IKEA will contribute a lot to make India better, but even stronger. I strongly believe that India will make IKEA better. There are so many things what we can discover here when it comes to people's life at home. The wishes and the dreams and the diversity of the people living here in their homes, and to contribute to make that better, but also our learning when it comes to small space living, the value of the family, the way of living, the different dreams and needs what people having here will help, and then also the service orientation, the digitalization, which is going very fast in India, will help IKEA, so India will help to make IKEA better. So it was a 5 years journey, and I think the breakpoint, my colleagues started here 5 years ago to open, so now we decided finally also we would like to be in India, where the many people are, where the diversity is, where the dynamic is, and looking for the future, because it's when we're taking a commitment to go to a country, then it's not a short-term commitment to make 5 years business. We have a long-term view and a long-term commitment to India, and then also to have long-term investments to India, to come closer to our vision and to do sustainable business here in India. So we arrived here, and I think it has been tremendous work also to open up for foreign investment, for a foreign multinational retailer. The experience has been that we can say from all governmental support, there was a lot of interest and listening. How can we ease of doing business? How can we support you? How can we help you to come and land to India? There have been a lot of progress on that way, which has made it also, I think, applicable to land in that. And now we're close to open our first store in Hyderabad soon, and we have much more plans to open more stores around India. So it has been it has a bumpy road sometimes on that journey, but finally we arrived here. But still there are some opportunities where we talk about retailing and single brand retailing for the future, but we are full of hope that this we can also solve together with the government. So we are here also to partner and to work together with the society, with NGOs, with other stakeholders and with the government to contribute to better everyday life for the many people, to contribute to make India better, but also we are here to learn a lot as IKEA from India and from the society.
So I'll come back to you, Peter, but Erich, you've been in India for over a decade. And, during these almost 10 years, I'm sure there are a lot of positive as well as not so positive experiences. So would you share a little bit about your perspective on, what are some of the things that work well in India? And what is the one thing that, if I were to say, you wish would be different in India, because it would really open up big opportunities which perhaps are kind of bottled up right now?
So being in India since around about 10 years is for sure a challenge. Especially when I consider how it started. I came here in 2008 in summer, and after 3 months more or less we had the Lehman Brothers crisis. So if you are not prepared for the worst, you should not stay in India. I was taught immediately. So starting with Lehman Brothers crisis, ramping up here a plant with 160 hectare, 400 acre. In the meanwhile we are 5 years in production. We have 60,000 trucks on Indian roads. We export to 40 different countries from India. Not from Germany. We export from India. We export CBUs. We export CKD kits. We have CKD plants which we also are linked to India. All this looks extremely well, I would say. In 5 years, we have been named the second time the commercial vehicle manufacturer of the year. So also this looks pretty well, because it shows us what kind of quality we can establish. And as we are concerned, we have the same quality as in any Daimler plant in the world. We export out of India in the meanwhile, we have exported in the meanwhile 50 million parts, 50 million parts. But it looks always relatively simple, and it's not. Why is it not? Because when you start in India, you believe you have a rule book, and this rule book is adhered. Because you come here as a European, and then you think, there's a rule book, and this is a government promise you one thing. Truck code will be implemented in 2010, so you will have steel cabins, we will have safety norms and all the things. GST will also be implemented in 2010, and so on. Yeah? And by the way, then you have BS4, BS6, all will come in time, like also last year, after a long time announcement, air conditioning is mandatory, which turned later out for some guys, a fan is good enough. This makes it extremely challenging for all of us to plan our investments, because you never know, can you rely on something? Is it really possible? You invest here millions in euros or US dollars or gross, whatever you want. And you never know when it will turn positive, because just when you think you have it, now this will come, this will be implemented. It doesn't happen. GST, supposedly to implement it in 2010, was implemented last year. So actually, it helps my business quite a lot. Why? Relatively simple. In the past, the truck in India drove 80,000 kilometers. Now our trucks drive 200,000 kilometers per year. Quite a different story, which will help you in the cool chain, by the way. Did you know 60% of the vegetable rots away from the farmers to the customers, because there is no cool chain? So now with GST we have a chance to do this. But all in all, what is the biggest challenge is one thing. I shared it with my colleagues. You go to a different country, then you have suppliers which are ready-made, and you can say, I'll select you, and then you get products. Here we selected our suppliers, then we planned the entire training program for the suppliers, including blue collar, and more focus on blue collars and on management. We selected the equipment and we trained them in process and systems. Because we didn't want to differentiate between Indian quality or global quality. Our aim is a global quality. We are not interested in any Indian quality. And this is what is the biggest challenge, to train people to fulfill global standards. And as a result, as I said, I export 50 million parts. A lot of Indian suppliers have seen global awards from our organization because now they have really upscaled. What is incredibly positive is the IT industry, if you know how to select and how to steer those colleagues. But again, the most difficult thing is a sudden change of rules, and there is no rule book which cannot be changed. And I shared it also here outside. Interesting thing is I export, so you believe it's easy. We have one deep water harbor in India, the Adani port, which is close to Pakistan. Doesn't help me at all. If I have to export our trucks, which goes starting from Jamaica to New Zealand, so we really cover the entire southern hemisphere from India, I have to load trucks in India, in my lovely port in Chennai. Then in Singapore, we unload the same truck, we reload, and it goes to the next ship. Guess what? This is damn expensive. So if somebody from the government thinks this is helpful for our business, I have no idea. If somebody thinks that we have the biggest coastline in the world in India, it's not used at all. If we talk about infrastructure in India, which would be necessary for all of our businesses, the railway system was set up by the British, and it still works. No, it doesn't work. This is a joke. It doesn't work, and this is actually the issue. We need infrastructure which works. We need roads, and we need really reliable roads, and we don't need these reliable roads only in Bangalore. I would also be happy if I would see this in some other states. And again, if we want really prosper in India, there is one thing that we have to change. We really have to invest in education. We have to train people. We train every year a lot of people. We are focused on vocational training. What we do, you can start in my company as blue collar, and you become a white collar engineer. This we offer everybody, if he is keen. But it only works if you have a game plan. And I think that's the biggest challenge here.
So we'll come back and revisit some of the infrastructure questions. But Krish, I do want to pick up on a point that Erich made, which is about, in a sense, the volatility and unpredictability of our regulations with retrospective things happening with retrospective effect and so on. Walmart went through a very significant business model change, as it were, from the time it initially came to India to what Walmart is doing now. I think it'll be useful to share, what created the change, how you actually looked at that opportunity, and in a sense, converted an adversity or a suboptimal business performance in the old business model to what you're doing now, which seems to have worked in India, which again points out to this whole issue of, unless you are nimble and agile in India, you can't really take advantage of the opportunities that might exist, even though there are the infrastructural challenges which we will come back to. So Krish, over to you.
Sure. So when we started restarted our business in 2014 as a 100% subsidiary of Walmart, I think we clearly, of course, recognize the fact that many of the issues that we face in this country are similar to many other emerging markets. And particularly when you talk about, for instance, Latin America or Africa or many other markets. However, the potential and the opportunity that India provides is immense. So how do you translate this opportunity into real business benefit was the key challenge. Certainly, as you mentioned, I think India is complex. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And understanding the complexity and resetting was important. So the first step that we took was to look at India more as a subcontinent. In the earlier avatar, we had gone all over India, nationally, in terms of the footprint. But starting 2014, we decided to focus on 6 states on the basis of certain criteria and concentric circle principles, which work in retail. So the idea being that each of these states is as big as a nation. And therefore, succeeding in these states will set the stage for going national in the future. That is number one. Number two was that I think intense focus required on compliance, regulatory compliance. Because as a global corporation, there is zero tolerance for any kind of non-compliance, including anti-bribery provisions. So in the last 3 years particularly, we focused on that aspect in terms of, for instance, we have 60 people working only on legal and compliance for a business which is currently reasonable. It's not very big. It's about $600 million. But the investment is more for the time to come when the business will grow much bigger. So that was the second principle and second thought process. And the third is about focus on building talent. So while we believe, of course, that we have talented people in India, and therefore you don't need to get all kinds of talent from abroad, it's about skills. And in India, we do lack that global retail skills which are there in the developed markets. So we clearly identified certain positions, for instance, design and construction in real estate, or merchandising, as the key skills which are required where we need to get the expats and also train our people internally and hire high-performance talent from within the country. So these three clear strategies have paid off in terms of setting the foundation of the business, which is our wholesale cash and carry business. So get into a business or do business which you are allowed to do in the country, where the rules are absolutely clear, 100% wholesale, 100% FDI and wholesale cash and carry under the automatic route. That is the first principle. And that's what has really helped us come to this stage where we are now ready to grow much more significantly.
You know, so one of the things that we hear a lot about in the last few years especially is this whole idea of come to India, make in India, innovate in India, you know, stand in India, sit in India, all of those things. So in that context, what I've heard all of you say is that, you know, infrastructure is still a challenge. Availability of talent is still a challenge. But is India, you know, when we say ease of doing business in India, one way of looking at it is that there is no India. It all depends on which state you want to go to, because even though the central government might have stated policies, at the end of the day, it is the state governments that either make you, you know, really make themselves attractive destinations or not. So how did IKEA, for example, decide? And you mentioned that, you know, your colleague came here 5 years ago, and in a sense, if I was being cynical, I would say it's taken 5 years to open the first store in India. So I have two questions to ask you. What has been your experience in other countries? And, you know, in India, we love to compare ourselves with China. So if there is anything that you can shed some light on there. And secondly, why does it take 5 years to open a store?
I think the first question, I think coming from the opportunities what we're having here and facing then also the challenges what we're having here to open the stores. I think when it comes to, from a retail perspective, coming from a country like Germany, what we're not having in India so far is like a central retail legislation framework. So retail is not seen as industry, where it's regulated from a central perspective. So we are depending very much on really state rules and what kind of people you know on the state. Are you welcome there or not welcome there? And also locally. I'll give you the example in when I open in Hyderabad, I would like to open in Bangalore. When it comes to pure opening hours, labor laws, can we bring female people, can we bring women into work, can they work longer, can they come back after sabbatical, all these kind of things are very local, and you have to go to different authorities. The process is very time consuming, and you might not get the same answer if you go in Hyderabad or in Bangalore. You might, so that makes it very difficult. So the process with all the legislation and the process to land there, also when you would like to buy land, is very complex and complicated and very local. So we are missing clearly, when it comes to retail, a retail legislation framework which is central and applicable for everyone. So that's maybe different from China, I don't know so much, but from Germany, which makes it fair and applicable for everybody, also in that long perspective. When it comes to what was the second question? Sorry.
No, why did it? It's taken 5 years to open the first store, and if there are any, comparisons with other countries in Asia, for example, where things have worked much faster.
I think there was a lot of work, but also a lot of I would say support from different stakeholders, including the government and the authorities. Really, what do you need to come here? What do you need to make that applicable? What do you need? And this processes take quite long, because then it goes again state by state or local by local. You have to then apply, and then how to make that applicable. The processes in itself take very long. And then also what you were mentioning, infrastructure and compliance, to be compliant there, to be infrastructure, that makes it very complex and complicated, and sometimes a bit unreliable. What is the next law to expect? What can we expect next in change of laws? GST has changed now in the favor that also furniture is now also, you can call it a basic product or not a basic product, but makes it affordable for many people. But now, for example, customs duties have increased suddenly. Nobody knows about this. This unpredictable changes in law, where you don't see, is there a master plan? What you were saying, how to make that makes it sometimes very complex and complicated, because you cannot plan much forward. I would like to mention one thing for a multinational retailer also is we would like to invest long-term in India. So we are committed in India for a long-term view and long-term. Today it's not possible for a retailer, as we are in the retail sector, to have an intercompany debt. So you have to go to borrow money from banks here, and as you're not in the industry, sector, in that perspective, it makes it very expensive. But we would like to fund by ourselves, which is today not possible. We are in a very good dialogue, so I hope that this will be in the future possible. But this would be also another big step.
So what I'm hearing very loud and clear from you, as well as from Erich, is in a sense, the volatility, the unpredictability of what happens. But, you've been here 10 years, and certainly in those 10 years, Daimler-Benz has seen, its growth, not just in terms of what you sell in India, but what also you produce in India to sell around the world. Would you say that growth has been constrained by factors which are, specific to operating in the Indian environment? Or would you say it is really a function of the opportunities in, let's say, the export markets? In other words, what would it have taken to grow faster than you have in the last 10 years?
If GST would have been implemented 5 years ago, we would have seen a much faster growth rate. Why do I say this? In the last 10 years, we had a stagnation in the entire commercial vehicle industry. We had a total market of 200,000. Before Lehman Brothers, we had a market of 330,000, and we predicted 500,000. And with GST, everybody expected that it comes. What makes, besides regulation, sudden changes like import duty, by the way, it's not 5%, what most people think, which is changed now in import, because you have also some education fee to pay now, which comes on top of this. So in relation of import goods, it's up to 9%. So this is significant. This is really significant for somebody who wants to use this as a basis and wants also to export. And at the same time, India wants to really also to prosper and for us to make in India campaigns. What would have been extremely beneficial would have been if we really would have clear rules and regulations, as I said before, because What makes it difficult, for example, if you produce a truck? You homologate a vehicle, and then you think you can register this pan-India. Impossible. You have to go to all these local RTO offices. You have to register it again and again. You have always to double the work, and this slows you down. Just you cannot enter next country or the next state. It doesn't work like this. So you produce something and then you roll it out. It never works. Everybody wants to see something totally different. And this has nothing to do that we really have to fulfill regulation. There are some people, for them it's a business. We have to understand this. Local bodybuilders gets protected. Next election is around the corner, which needs to be protected. All the things hinders here India to grow. No, it's local protectionism which hinders India to grow. It's why Walmart is not in Chennai. I guess there is a reason. I would love to see these guys in Chennai. Sure. No, honestly. When I came to India, we didn't have anything which was bigger than Nilgiris. So I think you know how big Nilgiris is, possibly not a bad job. No, but again, what is good in India and what fosters the economy is one thing. The commitment of Indian entrepreneurs is outstanding. It's extremely easy to convince an Indian entrepreneur to invest 100 million euro, US dollar, whatever you want. Relatively simple. Try the same trick in Europe, you will fail. That's relatively easy because if they believe in you and if they believe in the business and if they understand that you're a compliant acting company and you will also be here tomorrow, then the kind of commitment which you get from Indian industry, from Indian entrepreneurs, it's fantastic. Where we really look forward is a little support of the government, just in this way, be a little bit more predictable. Just don't try to bulldoze the industry down, be a little bit more predictable, so that we have a chance to fulfill regulations also in the future. That would really help. And it would help to a large extent if we would really make life in this regard also easier, how foreigner gets treated in India. We are not treated like Indians. If we go to a foreign registration office or something like this, we know we are not second class, we are third class or fifth class. And this is something which I think we should not have. We are all human beings. We are here, we want to do business, we want to prosper in India, but we want also to help India. So we want to be treated in the same way. This also would help because it's extremely challenging sometimes. As you said, we need some experts to convince somebody to come to India. It's challenging. At the same time, every Indian wants to go abroad. So that's a natural thing. So if I look for somebody in Japan, I have 100 candidates. If I look for somebody in Chennai, then the search takes forever. So we have to make life also easier in this regards, that we welcome foreigners, that we accept them as normal colleagues and so on. I think this would help a lot.
Perhaps, what you were sharing with me earlier, it's not just ease of doing business in India, but it's also ease of living in India. You might want to share the example of living in South Korea and, what happened.
In South Korea, I lived there for 3 years and I found it quite interesting. The Korean government wanted to have experts. In order to get experts, they did one very smart move. No expert really had to pay any tax. Guess what? How fast did Korea develop? How many knowledge came into Korea in a short time span? How much did Korea prosper in this time? So I would say this was a really good investment from the Korean government to attract experts, to come them, to help them to set up businesses. They didn't remain, but they set up businesses for the future. And that might be a good idea. Sometimes also to attract some experts, which helps us to prosper here.
Which is a great segue into, one of the things we keep talking about in India is, the large numbers of people we have, the educated engineers, computer scientists, and so on. And yet, when it comes to key skills and competencies, there is always a shortage. Yours is an industry which, in addition to being automated, relies a lot on people. What has been your experience in terms of, the availability of good skills and experience to actually come into the business and start moving with it?
The retail industry has been attracting a lot of talented people in recent years. And if I talk of Walmart experience, we have attracted a number of people. In fact, most of our workforce at the home office, which is the skilled people, they are all from the FMCG industry. And from good management institutes or good engineering institutes. And they are quick learners. And our experience has been that when we send them abroad for training, they pick it up in 3 months' time or 6 months' time. So we are able to see this ability to really develop the skill that is needed for our business, for retail industry, very quickly. And as far as the digital part is concerned, because in future now, the digital transformation is the big one, and the omni-channel experience is the big one. I think India is second to none, because Indians are actually working abroad. In our US business, there are a large number of Indians who are in both Silicon Valley as well as in Bentonville. So, and we are able to develop things in India here at probably 20% of the cost of what would it take in a developed market. So tech talent, I think fantastic talent. Retail talent is picking up. And future is all about, but having said this, with the way the retail business is expected to grow in the country, retail industry is expected to grow in the country, there will be war for talent. And there will be the need to focus also at the same time on high performance talent. So it will become an interesting space.
There is already a war for talent. Speaking for the FMCG industry, which is where I come from, we used to keep looking at our attrition rates and saying it's those retailers, the Walmarts, who are paying more money and taking away all our wonderful talent.
Can I add something here when it comes to talents? I think there's one wonderful opportunity which can be even stronger developed in retail or in India is the women. We have in IKEA we have that value that we would like to have gender equality. So what we are doing is a 50-50 gender equality in our labor. That means each department, each level, we are striving for 50-50 men and women. And this is something maybe, and then we're also investing when it comes to, we're investing in the Disha program together with other retailers and other companies. We're investing to educate and training underprivileged women to go to be able to work in retail or for other companies. I think there's so much opportunities there what we can use, and maybe also some other companies or retailers, we can take more effort and also even support it from the government when it comes to laws and everything to emphasize women and make it more easier to come to work. Because there's, at least when it comes to home furniture, this is a wonderful opportunity with the women, with the competence and with the engagement, with the motivation, what they have here. So I think this is something that we can really together develop even stronger.
Sure. Vinita, can I just add one point here? I think this is very important and interesting. We have a big focus on women economic empowerment, and therefore under different pillars we have programs. For instance, we have Women in Factories program, training women, that is one part. The second is about Women in Retail program, which we ran with Seva in Gujarat, training 25,000 women to work in retail. Internally, we have a big focus on diversity and inclusion, and the gender equality is an important issue in the country, and we recognize this fact. And very recently, in fact, we've started in the last couple of years, Women Entrepreneurship Development Program. This is a unique one, and the second batch of 64 women are right now undergoing a 9-month course or 9-month program with us, where we train them in various business skills and functional skills as well, and then integrate them into the supply chain. And eventually, I think over a period of maybe 5 to 7 years, some of them will be able to supply to our global supply chain as well. So I think, Peter, the point that you made about women and focusing on women, that's an important agenda for us too.
So I want to do a quick round with all three of you before we open it up for questions, and we'll do this as a rapid round. I want each of you to think about what is the one suggestion you would make that would enable foreign direct investment and actually investment in India to grow exponentially. What is the one obstacle that India ought to remove, or what is the one opportunity that you see which, if pursued, would lead to an exponential growth in India's growth? Eric, you want to start?
A certain change of mindset would be required, because as of now, India is perceived as a workbench with a low labor cost. And I think what we have to change is really this. We have to develop India to a hub, but a hub which is a high technology hub. We need really to change this. As of now, India is maybe the second follower. We should change to the first follower. No, we should become the leader. For example, if I think about e-mobility, China is well ahead. And India is talking. India thinks, from whom I will get the technology. I told you this. We had a discussion in NAGMA, this is Automotive Association, where some colleagues asked, and who will deliver the technology that we can copy it later on? And I said, we have hundreds of millions of engineers in India. We have hundreds of millions here of IT guys. What we have to change is our mindset. We need a game plan for the future in India, that we want to be a leading nation if it comes really to technology. And we need something like global products which everybody knows, which are coming from India. Everybody knows, for United States, you can name easily several products like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and so on. You know all these things. You go to Korea, you know Samsung, LG. There's not a single product which we have developed here with an Indian brand which is known on a global base. And this has to change, ladies and gentlemen. We have to be a leading nation and not a first follower.
Thank you. Great. Chris, your one debottlenecking idea.
Yeah, from a retail industry perspective, I think simplification of land acquisition and all regulations relating to real estate will go a long way, so that the overall gestation period of 4 to 5 years in opening a store can be really cut down to a year and a half or 2 years, as is prevalent in Southeast Asian markets.
Great, thank you. Peter?
Everybody who's asking me now, coming back to Europe, I would like to say everybody, come to India. It's worthwhile if you prepare to have a long-term commitment, because short-term there are some challenges. It's a huge market, also from IKEA perspective. It will be one of the biggest markets in the future, what we will have there with the people here. And then when it comes to the one, maybe there's not more, but the one is we need reliable retail legislation framework. Put retail as like the industry sector, so applicable as one sector, reliable central laws and regulations for everybody, and that makes it much more easier.
Great, thank you. We've got about 18 minutes, and I'd like to throw it open for audience questions with the requests like in the morning. Keep your questions as short as you possibly can. And if there is anybody in particular on the panel you want to ask the question to, just name that individual. Otherwise, we'll get one of the panelists to answer if it is a general question. Are you standing to ask the question? Yes. Okay.
Hello, my question is to Mr. Erich. Hoping that the regulations will ease out in India, does Daimler have any plans for autonomous cars and trucks for India in the future?
So I cannot speak for cars, it's a totally different division, believe me. But we producing trucks here in India. We have 60,000 trucks on Indian roads. We are growing in an extreme fast speed. And as I said before, we export out of India, and I'm proud we export out of India under 5 different brands. Bharat-Benz, then we have the brand Fuso, then we have the brand Mercedes-Benz, which we produce in India, by the way, also in buses. Then we export, for example, to Mexico under the brand of Freightliner, and with as Mitsubishi Fuso, which is with 3 diamonds. It's a 5th brand, also from India to Middle East, for example. So India is for us a hub, and is a long-term commitment. And my commitment, by the way, is unlimited.
Thank you. There is a question there. Yeah, you have the mic, so can you go ahead at first?
So my question is to Krish, or even Vinita can comment on this. So since last couple of years in MNC, we are seeing Patanjali or even Sri Sri coming into the market on the name of Swadeshi. So how MNCs are going forward to tackle this Swadeshi movement to make their business on?
So our focus is customer. Whatever the customer wants is something we will sell. And if the customer wants, and today the customer wants Patanjali, we sell Patanjali in our stores. So it's not about Swadeshi versus Videshi. It is all about the customer. And that intense customer focus is what we follow.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that, saying, every company and every brand positions itself. Just because we say it is Swadeshi, I can think of, there are many more companies, certainly in the food and beverage space, that are Indian than multinationals. Think of companies like Marico, Dabur, even Britannia now for several years. So I don't think it is Swadeshi versus Videshi, as he said. It really is a question of, who's your consumer and how are you targeting your product to meet that needs of the consumer. But yes, sir, go ahead.
My question is to Mr. Erich. What is Daimler's response to the India's vision of completely going electric vehicle in a few years from now?
Sorry, can you just repeat your question? It wasn't clear.
Electric vehicles, right?
Yeah, so what is Daimler's response to the India's vision of completely going electric in a few years now in terms of automobile? Because I have been seeing some different points of view coming from Daimler. I want to understand it from Erich.
So, I speak again for commercial vehicle. We have just recently launched the e-Kanda, which we produce in Japan. This e-Kanda also we have access to the technology if we want it. So we have launched it in Berlin, we have launched it in New York, we have launched it in Australia, we have launched it in Tokyo. We are, by the way, the only one which really is not only promoting it, we are actually selling this electric trucks already. So what is our commitment regarding electrification in India? We have to think about several things here. To produce electric vehicle, ladies and gentlemen, is not difficult. It's absolutely not difficult. The question is really, do we have batteries here in India available, which might be a challenge to set up a battery plant here. So I look forward to see here also some kind of response. But the biggest challenge is one thing. Uninterrupted power supply, and you need a lot of energy in order to charge an electric vehicle, let alone a truck, even a car to charge, is really extremely energy consumption is required. So I would say first and foremost we have to have a plan here how we really want to have a stable grid, so we really have this power supply from everywhere, that we can charge vehicles in the future. It should not be that we use lignite, which is used in India. Lignite is a very, I'm not sure everybody knows this. Lignite has a high sulfur content, but has a very less energy content. And this is what is mainly used in India also to produce energy. And this is the worst thing we should do. If you compare Euro 6 vehicle with a vehicle with electric vehicle where you would produce the energy by burning lignite or normal coal, it's minimum 10 times worse what you would do. So we need to find a way to produce clean energy, to have this uninterrupted available before we can really think about electrification. By the way, I forgot this. Our plant in Chennai is 70% self-sufficient already, so we have solar panels everywhere. We buy environment-friendly energy, so 70% on renewables already. We go this year to 100% renewable energy, so it's possible.
That's great. Wonderful, yes.
My question is for Peter. So Peter. It took 5 to 6 years for you to open the first store, and globally it takes 2.5 years to open an IKEA store, with what I understand. With IKEA standing up for getting family to come to IKEA store, having an experience, looking back, do you think you should have gone for a mixed strategy of .com and store experience in India, which would have given you an earlier entry?
Very interesting question. I think growing up in IKEA, I think our IKEA is well known for the range, for our brand, and for a fantastic fun day out in our stores. In our stores, what you normally see is not that you go there normally and just would like to buy a billy shelf, because you go there because you're interested in home furnishing, you would like to have fantastic food, you would like to meet fantastic people. So it's a fun day out for the whole family, and this remains. So this is fantastic what you have there. So the stores will be also in the future the hub of you can say fun day out, home furnishing inspiration, aspiration, meeting people, having this great day out, and getting inspiration for your home and getting support to furnish your home. And then for sure, then with the digitalization, other opportunities are coming in. The way you can meet with a brand, you can meet with a customer, the way you can. So there are other ways of you call it the full integration of all possibilities. How you can meet the brand, or how you can meet your consumer, how you can inform yourself. So this integration of the digitalization with a mobile phone, the digitalization how it can meet in the inner cities, because today we are located with the big stores, with the big experience. We are located outside the cities. What we require has easy access when it comes to local transportation, when it comes to all this kind of thing. But also we would like to meet the people in the city, maybe with smaller formats, what we have there, and the integration of the digital possibility. You can call it new retail. It's not about the one or the other, the full integration of the full experience with all opportunities, but this is the opportunity for the future, and this is where we're going for.
I saw, yes, there's a gentleman here. Can we have the mics here, please? Who has the mic? Well, right in front. Then if there's another mic there and one right at the back. So if we have more mics. Yes.
Sir, I'm an environmentalist, and I do work, I save lakes in Bangalore, and I planted more than 5,000 trees. So I work for environment only. So regarding this, I want to ask you, you are MNC's big company. So what do you people think and what you can do to save the environment?
I think we'll get actually all three too, because there are significant work that all three companies are doing globally in the environment.
So yes. What can we do? It starts how we produce. It really starts how we produce. So as I mentioned before, 70% renewable energy in our plant, no waste at all, which leaves the plant, all 100% controlled, even water, all the things 100% controlled, because I believe in this. We have in our plant 16,000 trees, so we really take care of this. Besides some bushes and grass and all these things, everybody can do something. We harvest rainwater, so that we do not waste anything with, so borewell water or things like this. It's the same thing we roll out also, so that we really help our dealers in order to understand this. We support also, let's say, our suppliers, how they can learn from us, how we manage this, because I think this is really the call of the hour. That we also have clean production processes, not only clean products, but also the products. We were the front runner, which changed from BS3 to BS4. We didn't wait. We lead the ground in the change. Where others build it up a stock level of 90,000 trucks, we already have changed. We already produced BS4 trucks well ahead of time, because we didn't want to waste any time. We are already testing BS6 trucks in India, yet we don't have the fuel in India available. We test this, we will be ready in 2020, no doubt about it. Commitment from us is for environment, and this is 100% sure, because if you travel to Delhi and you travel there on a raining day, you see actually one thing. There's a change of the colors of the leaf from gray to green if it rains. And this is a disaster, ladies and gentlemen. That's an absolute disaster. Delhi is the most polluted city in the world. We don't want to contribute in this. By the way, Daimler or Bharat-Benz, we support already and we supply BS5 trucks, which is much higher in the emission norms than BS4, without additional costs.
Thank you. Chris, would you, and then we'll come to, just very briefly, the environmental initiatives.
Absolutely. I think this is such a big subject and such a big area of focus for Walmart globally. I'll just give you a couple of examples of what we are doing in India, even with a small business of 21 stores. The rooftop is entirely used for generating solar power. And now we're experimenting with a parking lot. So put roof over the parking lot and use it for generating solar power. Thereby generate about 50% of our requirement of the box through solar. One example. Second is, for instance, LED in the entire store. The third example is waste to compost. One machine has been indigenously developed, and we just piloted it in the Hyderabad store, and it is proving to be successful. We'll roll it out in all the existing stores as well as the future stores. So many other areas of focus in terms of environment and sustainability, which are big for us, and we try to do it in every single way.
Thank you. Just 2 or 3 examples of perhaps how you're thinking about it in India. Peter?
I think there are. IKEA has since 25 years, we have decided you cannot, as a company, you have to take, your business has to be based on responsible models. So we have, since 25 years, we have introduced People and Planet Positive. That means thousands of different initiatives and measurements to have a positive impact on people, to have a positive impact on the environment. That starts where we say it starts with sourcing, it goes over supply, it goes over transportation, the way how we interact where we're doing business, the way we are dealing with people and the community. There are thousands of examples, but I think it's worthwhile to spend a whole day about that. And it's also a lot of energy and initiatives what we see here also with local NGOs and with local stakeholders to even create even more positive impact on that part. It's part of our DNA. As a multinational company, you cannot do business if you don't do that responsible for people and for the environment.
Okay, there was a question somewhere there.
I got the mic.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, good
Oh,
evening.
okay,
Yes,
at the back.
my name is Madan Padaki from OneBridge. A question to Krish. One of the largest challenges that we face in the country is job creation and enabling entrepreneurs to create more jobs. So from that perspective, will you mention briefly about the women that you're helping become entrepreneurs? Is there any larger plan to help entrepreneurs and create more entrepreneurs through the Walmart network in the country as you're building out specifically in the retail segment?
So every store that we open creates 250 direct jobs in that city, and nearly 8 multiple of 8, about 2,000 indirect jobs in the entire value chain, including with the kirana shops which come up, as well as on the demand side as well as on the supply side. And I think working with the small and medium enterprises and local suppliers and developing new suppliers, that helps creates jobs as well. So we are currently in the process of doing a complete study as to one store will really create how many jobs. To my mind, it will be more than a multiple of 8. It will be more than 2,000 jobs eventually because of the size of the box. But it's certainly an important benefit that comes from particularly a bricks and mortar retail, because you have physical stores where you need people to sell. Even in the omni-channel, even in the e-commerce space, because of transportation and logistics and warehousing, there is immense job creation that happens.
Thank you. We've got the last 30 seconds. So, Peter, you wanted to add something to the job creation thing. And I'm sorry, then we run out of time.
And just to add on what my colleague said here, I think it's not only that the direct job creation, what you can do as a multinational retailer. In that, what we are discovered when it comes to home furnishing and retailing, for example, this emphasizes even more interest for retail, more interest for home furnishing. In that flow, a lot of other retailer, a lot of more job creation will come. So it's the starting point or the middle point to even have a machine up when it comes to job creation for the future. So wonderful future for India.
Thank you. With that, we are, I'm afraid, out of time. So a big hand for our wonderful panelists here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krish Iyer, Mr. Peter Betzel, Mr. Erich Nesselhauf, and Ms. Vinita Bali. I request Thomas K. Thomas, Chief of Bureau, Mumbai, the Hindu Business Line, to present mementos to our guests as a token of our appreciation. The memento is a print of the first editorial of the Hindu.